what do we expect our bug out bag to do, or whatever you want to call it, 72-hour get home bag, go bag. What is it that we require of this thing? First, let's try to define it. What does it need to do for us? Any ideas? Keep us warm, that kind of thing. In what type of scenario, and where would we keep it? Where do you think we should keep this thing? So in a vehicle, because everybody got here today by means of a vehicle, right? You all drove here. Did anybody not drive here? Everybody drove here. So your car, your truck, is going to be your closest resupply point. No matter where you are, if something happens, your closest resupply point will be the car. So that's where we want to keep the kit, not at home. And if we switch vehicles, we want to take that with us. Okay? So you can see that this is very nondescript. It's just kind of a black bag. It's not really huge. It's kind of baseline, you would say. It wouldn't be out of place in an airport. It wouldn't be out of place in a college campus. And it's certainly not unwieldy. I mean, it's very manageable size. So, do you remember a couple years back in Atlanta, there was a little bit of ice, a little bit of snow, and people stayed for 3 days in their car, some people 4 days. So when we leave the house in the morning, we don't necessarily think, I'm not coming back. We always assume I'm coming back home to be in a safe, warm bed. You might have to camp for 3-4 days. So usually that 72-hour window, within that time frame, things have solved themselves. You've either worked your way out of the problem, figured it out, or moved to a better location or situation. So what's going to kill us first? What's probably statistically the number one thing that's going to kill us? Hypothermia. Yep. We have to guard our core temp. So you'll notice a theme, probably 80-85% of what's in this bag is geared towards maintaining my core temp. Okay? Now as we're moving around, we have to thermoregulate. If all of a sudden the car breaks down and I need to start walking, I've got all my clothes on. It may be cold outside, but what's going to happen while I'm walking? I'm going to get hot, I'm going to start to sweat. So really when we think of shelter, we think in terms of a structure, like a house or a lean-to or a teepee that we make. But really shelter is a three-pronged thing. We have to have a three-tiered approach to it. The first layer of our shelter system is our clothing. So when you dress to leave the house every day, you should ask yourself, am I dressed appropriately to sleep out of doors tonight if I had to? That means you get rid of cotton. Okay, cotton kills. Write that in your notes. Cotton kills, especially these blue jeans. Okay, I've got 2 pairs of blue jeans and I wear them very rarely. Usually, if I'm like in New York City or someplace where, you know, that's when I'm going to wear them once in a great while. But mostly I don't. I don't even own cotton socks. I literally threw them away. I didn't donate them. I didn't give them away. I threw them away. That's how I feel about cotton socks. I put them in the trash. Cotton, you ever been in a wet pair of blue jeans? How long does it take them to dry? They really don't dry. Not out in the woods when you're walking around. They stay wet. They hold water like a sponge. They're going to stick to you. And in cold weather, that's bad. And in hot weather, that's bad. You're going to be a casualty to either the heat or the cold by virtue of the fact that fabric doesn't breathe. And you've got the fact that it's stuck to you, and you've got mobility issues. You could actually be a mobility casualty based on that. So dress for success. Things like wool or polyprop, like I'm wearing as a polyprop shirt. These are wicking, fast drying layers, so that if I did lather up and I'm sweaty and now I've got to lay down and temperatures fall overnight and they're cold, at least I'm not wet and cold. See, I don't want that moisture up against my body. And that's why I keep the jacket on the outside, is as I'm walking along, you know, I get hot, layers can come off and they can live here. If I stop or the temperature changes, I start to get cool, layers can come back on. You have to constantly thermoregulate. Because if I start sweating profusely, not only can that adversely impact my core temp and my survivability in that regard, but I'm also not being a good steward of my water. I'm losing my water. And it may be in precious supply, it may be at a premium. So I want to maintain my body's efficiency of water usage, and I don't want to just sweat for no reason, right? So on the outside, we have, you're not going to believe what comes out of this. Take a good look at the size of this bag. Okay, and when you take the water ball out of the equation, that's actually the surface area of the bag, okay? Right here, this tiny bag. So we've got a very compactable type of jacket you can find at any type of hiking shop. They can be in down or synthetic. The only thing about down is once it's wet, it kind of loses some of its insulation. Other things that I might need to get to rather quickly, as far as the medical side of the house, a tourniquet. Because this, after all, is in arm's reach in my vehicle. If I'm in the midst of a car wreck and all of a sudden there's massive hemorrhage from an extremity, I've got quick access to a tourniquet. Because when you need a tourniquet, you need a tourniquet right now. You don't want to have to try to make one out of somebody's clothing and a stick. So I keep that readily accessible. I keep a flashlight readily accessible. If I need to signal with it, it's got the tail cap, it's bright. It's got a clip on it, can be put on your pocket, doesn't stick out, it's just like an ink pen or a marker up here. Takes a very common battery. Stay away from the ones that have the 123 volt batteries. Stick with AAA and AA because they are common. You can find those. The other ones are not as common and usually more expensive. Water filter. This water filter is a Sawyer Mini. Okay, it has 100,000 gallon capacity. You know all of the plastic bottles that we see littering the sides of the road? You can take one of those, dip it in a mud hole, screw this on there and take a drink. So that's what's nice about it. There's no moving parts involved with this thing. It has this threaded bottom. Or I could just drink straight from the source, use it like a straw. Whereas the life straws and ones like them that you see are only that. They're only a straw. This one can be about 4 different deployments. You know, you can use it as a straw, you can screw it onto a water bottle, you can screw it onto a water bladder. If you have the hydration pack that has the hose in it, you can cut out a section of hose, put this in there, and it filters the water as you're drinking it. So there's a lot of ways to use it.
What's the name of that again?
Sawyer, S-A-W-Y-E-R. This is the Mini. They make one that's a 1,000,000 gallon capacity, but it's a bit bigger. I like the Mini because it's just kind of hand sized. It can be put in a pocket or a purse, and it doesn't weigh much. There's no moving parts. Now, one cautionary word, the one thing you can do to hurt this is allow it to freeze. Once it's been used and water has passed through these fibers, what happens when things freeze? They expand. And now that small, tiny pore that was catching all the bad stuff has cracked and become large, and now it's allowing everything to come through. So if it's cold weather, you want to keep your filter, when you're sleeping, in the bag with you. Stick it in a sock, a pocket, armpit, something. Just don't allow it to freeze. But other than freezing and breaking, there's usually nothing going to happen with the filter.
Is that duct tape?
It is duct tape. There's a section in the middle that's kind of a bit of a recess. And so what I did, instead of carrying this huge roll of duct tape, is I just turned this into a tape dispenser. See, this is 100 mile an hour. This is the true duct tape. This is the real strong stuff. And so I've got quite a bit of tape on there, which you can use to close wounds with. You've seen the butterfly sutures where you close a wound up. Duct tape's even better. And it has other applications. If I got a hole in my poncho or my jacket or whatever, I could fix that. So yeah, I just made use of that space.
How would you take bacteria, diarrhea problems?
Cryptosporidium and Giardia are the 2 big ones that most filters have to at least kill that, and this certainly does that. Yeah.
Could you pour it on a bottle of water, or put it on a bottle of water and then kind of pour the water through it to use for cooking?
Yep.
Okay, so it will, even if you're not drinking it, you can squeeze it out. Okay.
Yeah, and that's something I'll show you as we get into the bag, how to fill. Like if I wanted to fill this with that filter, how would I do it? We'll talk about that. Probably one of the most important pieces of equipment that you can own is a metal container. Even more so than your knife, really. Because a metal container is the hardest thing for me to improvise out in the woods. Now I can break a rock, get a sharp edge, and use that to cut with. I can make rope, I can do a lot of things in the woods, but that would be really hard to make that, wouldn't it? And it's something that can be placed directly on a fire, and it renders your water safe to drink, and you can cook in it. So just your basic metal container. I prefer stainless steel. Aluminum isn't that durable. There's some health side effects that are negative. Titanium is nice, very lightweight, very durable, but horribly expensive. You'll spend, for a bottle like that, if it were made out of titanium, you may spend 75 bucks, 100 bucks, something like that, as opposed to, you know, $20 that this would cost, $30 that this would cost. So the titanium is going to be cost prohibitive, but it's worth it.
That's about a quart size.
That is 40 ounces. That's kind of a standard for a lot of water bottles. They also make, that's got a narrow mouth on it. I like the wider one in case I'm actually eating my soup out of it. This is just a little metal cup I got from Walmart, like $4.95, but it nests inside of that and it doesn't take up any extra space. And sometimes I need 2 metal containers. If I'm making medicine, I boil it here. I need to pour it through some type of filtration process into a second container. Might need to use this to dig with. So I like having some metal container that's not dedicated, that's not actually carrying water, so this works. So if we're walking home, something's happened and now you're carrying this thing, you're on foot, how do you know where you are? How do you know where you need to be, and how do you know how to get there? Those are the 3 questions you have to answer, right? I see you've got a compass around your neck. You went to land nav? Did you do the land nav class? So you know you've got to determine, okay, where am I now? Where is it that I desire to be, or where are the resources I need? And we find that information where? On a map. And we'll have to have a compass. So in this pocket here, I have a compass and some pace beads. These will help me keep track of my distance, how far I've come. And I also have maps of not only this area, but where I'm at in the entire southeastern United States. So anywhere I'm at, I can get home. These are very durable maps. There was a hiking shop did a test on these. They took one of these and stuck it down in a pail of water, and they left it sit there for months, and they pulled it out and it's still good. He stuck it back in. He pulled it out at a year and it was still good, and he still got it soaking. And see, they're just really durable, really tough. If it's raining, you know, it's fine. There's a lot of information on that. It tells me where things are that I might need to be aware of. It helps me with my route selection. What's the best way to get there? What's the safest way to get there? What should I avoid? You know, you've got all over in the Nantahala area. I've got Tennessee over here, South Carolina, most of Georgia. This is South Carolina. This is Georgia, right here on the back. So there's a lot of information on that one map. I spend a lot of time around national forests, so this is a detailed map of the Chattahoochee National Forest. This is a map of the Appalachian Trail, which I live near. And this is the southeastern United States. So it kind of helps me dial in to get where I need to be. So that's my navigation. Keep in mind, as we unroll this, the physical size of this bag, okay? That's just like basically a day pack, actually smaller than some day packs, all right? I don't carry toilet paper. Have you ever tried to use a handful of wet toilet paper?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It's unpleasant. So these are already moistened and more durable, and they lend themselves to, you've been out there 3-4 days, you know, a sponge bath, that type of thing. Just general hygiene, and not strictly as we would use toilet paper. So I carry a bit of that. Now, talking about first aid, most of what's going to happen to you, I've spent as much time living out of doors as anybody I know, and most commonly what I have found for medical and first aid is going to be the hands. You're going to get cuts and burns on your hands because you're dealing with edged implements, you're building things, you're doing things, you're cooking, you're making fire, you're dealing with fire, you're handling hot pieces of metal. So cuts and burns to the hands are some of the most common injuries you'll have. Next to that is going to be gastrointestinal stuff. I'm under stress, I haven't slept, I'm eating different food, I'm drinking different water, and I'm in a different location with different germs that my body's not used to, diarrhea is on the menu. It's going to happen most likely. So some Imodium AD, 2 of those pills, it's really good. It works. It's like a pharmaceutical court. 1 minute you're having problems, next minute you're not. So have that, and gloves to protect your hands, since you will be working with your hands a lot, okay? Gotta have a glove. I just generally always have a knife on me, but I leave one in the bag. I assume when I grab this, I may be in a pair of shorts and not have anything at all. So I'm going to just assume the worst, and that I'm going to have an edged implement in there. I generally, when I'm in the woods, I like wearing my neck knife. This is a sheath that I designed, and a friend of mine took that design and built it for me, and we tweaked it. If I need it one-handed, I can get to it. And it's accessible. It can be put under your shirt if you need it to have it as a concealed weapon. If I'm walking the roads, if you're a lady and you break down, it's 3 a.m. in the ghetto, this might come in handy. Never runs out of bullets, won't jam, won't miss fire. So, and usually they get close to you anyway. So I keep that. Another reason I like the neck sheath is when I'm working with my blade, I don't ever lay it down. I don't ever lay my knife down. If I'm working and I need to put my knife away, I'll sheath it, and I'll do what I'm doing, and then I'll need the knife again in a minute, and out it comes, and I put it back. The reason I don't lay it down is loss. You'll turn around, it gets in the leaves, you lose it, and you go somewhere else, and you, oh, my knife, where was it? The other thing is injury. You forget you laid it down here. You go to get up, you put your hand down. Now I've stabbed myself or cut myself in the hand, so I keep that blade covered. So how does our body, since hypothermia we've established is the #1 killer, how does my body lose its heat? What's that? Yeah, that's one way. There are several ways actually. I lose body heat just by virtue of the fact I'm standing here. My body heat, and it's radiating out into the atmosphere around me. So that's radiation. Then we have convection, which is the movement of air that robs my body of its body heat. The faster that air happens, the stronger that wind, the faster my heat loss, right? Respiration. As I'm talking to you, I'm losing water vapor and I'm losing body heat. And then one of the biggest ones and the most overlooked is conduction. When you take, and even if you build a shelter and you get in that nice cozy shelter with walls 3 feet thick and you lay your warm body on the cold ground, that's called conduction. You got limited resources of your body trying to pump and create heat, and you put that on the cold earth. Your body is tiny in relation to the earth, and it cannot heat the earth. That's a battle it can't win. And what a calorie is a unit of heat energy. Think of yourself, if you were a furnace, that calorie, and you only have a limited amount, it's the log you put on the fire that's going to create the heat. So what is vital is I have to put something between my body and the ground, dead air space. So one of the easiest ways, you've seen the big sleeping pads everybody has, some of them fold up, some of them blow up, and they usually have a pinhole in them when you need them most. One of the easiest, cheapest, lightest ways is just this contractor grade trash bag. I take 2 of those, they're really, really durable, and fill it up with whatever you can find. Leaves in our woods, gonna be leaves, grasses, mosses in the north woods, things like that. And this encapsulates them. Pack this thing full, pack it down, get it like at least 4 inches thick after it's compressed. And it's black. So if I set it out in the sun, what's gonna happen? It's gonna retain some of that heat, and then at night when temperature's cool, I'm gonna put my body on there and it's gonna release some of that, which is nice. And so when I'm done, I just dump it out. If I need to change locations, roll it up, lightweight, doesn't take a lot of room. And there's several other applications. This is multifunctional. I'm not carrying just one thing that's only good at this one thing. I try to carry things that I can do 3 or 4 things with. So a couple of those.
With that, so you put all your leaves in it?
Yeah.
Do you just leave it open?
Tie it up.
You tie it up? Okay.
Tie it up. Don't tie a real hard knot that you have to damage it to get it undone, or that you can't untie. I just generally tie a snug knot enough to keep it together, like take the corners and do an overhand knot. You can carry water in it. You can, in a snowy environment, make a bowl in the snow, lay this out, put snow in it, and it'll draw the heat in and create a little water catch for you. There's tons and tons of applications for this, yeah. This is not necessarily a necessity, but it's something that I like. Because we're under the assumption I'm trying to get somewhere. I'm not going to go out there like Swiss Family Robinson and build a village and tree houses and rope swings. So everything I do, I'm going to be on the move while I'm doing it. So I'm carrying things that'll stop me from having to build things, right? So instead of some big honking fire and I'm out there splitting wood and making this huge fire, all I need, what do I need a fire for? To cook or to purify water. That's it. And so by keeping it in here, I can regulate my airflow, and it insulates all the coals just enough, you know, just enough to boil that. And I'm not out there swinging axes and knives and all this. I'm using standing dead, little sticks, pine cones, stuff like that. It's good, quick, fast heat. Do your deal and go. Yeah, that would work.
What's the?
That's a rock.
Is that, the name of it is Vargo, V-A-R-G-O. We ordered it through a hiking shop. This is titanium, so it's very, very light, which means it's very, very expensive. If you want to get it in stainless, you can. It's much cheaper, but it's going to be a bit heavier. So that's just the trade-off you make. Everything is a struggle. You're kind of caught between two worlds. If it's really, really strong, like a lot of the military surplus stuff, it's built to be really, really strong. Some 18-year-old, he's going to be really hard on it. He's out there doing hard stuff with it. You can drag it behind a truck. But it's usually really, really heavy, and the design's not always the best as far as how it's going to fit and all that. And then on the other side of that spectrum, you find ultra lightweight backpacking stuff, which I have an item or two of. And usually it's not really durable because it is ultra, ultra light, but it's very expensive. So you have to just look at it on a piece-by-piece basis. On this piece of equipment, what do I require? Durability, lightweight, and you kind of strike that balance for yourself.
That's just a twig stove, right?
Yeah, it's wood fire.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing. If I have the little stoves that have the propane or the little fuel tablets or whatever the fuel is, eventually I reach a point where I have depleted my fuel reserve. I'm only limited to so much I can carry. With this type of stove, it's indefinite because it runs on biomass. So I tend to lean toward that. Borrow a volunteer. Let me borrow one of you guys. Just grab a corner. Just kind of walk it back out. Do you see the size of my shelter sheet? I can build a shelter out of this big enough to put my whole family in there on a night like last night. Driving rains. If you're cold, what does that predispose you to? And when you're wet at the same time, it certainly does, right? So I want to be dry. I want to stop wind. I want to stop rain. This will get it done. I can improvise this into a stretcher. I can turn this into a flotation device, an improvised boat. If I need to cross a river, there's many, many uses for this thing. It's not like a tent, it's just a tent. This is whatever I want it to be. I'll build it into whatever I desire it to be. So.
That's just not a regular top.
No. It's sil nylon. You see that table with the camouflage skirt around it? That's old Grouchy's surplus. I got this from him. It's kind of a special order item. But if you want one, you can talk to him. He doesn't have them in the store, but he can get you one. Something in it, some kind of sil nylon. What it is it crumples up the size of a grapefruit. And it weighs nothing, but you see the size of shelter it makes. And it was like $100, $120, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's one of those items where I'm like, okay, if I want to stay with a small kit, I'm going to spend that extra few dollars because this is very compactable, it's very lightweight, and it performs some very essential key elements for my survival. It stops wind and it stops rain. So that's a got-to-have item, and it does it for more than just me, right?
Would the
Thank you.
Kelty Noah's tarp, which kind of looks like that to me, be the same thing? Because it'll.
What's the name of it?
Kelty Noah's tarp.
I've had no experience with that.
I think it's pretty much the same thing.
They make some that look very similar, but the materials vary as far as the mils of thickness. So you get into that lightweight versus durability thing. So.
That doesn't have islands.
It does.
Oh, it does? Okay, I see it now.
It's got eyelets around the corners so that it can be constructed in a lot of different configurations. You can do 15, 20 different configurations appropriate to the area. It also has a loop in the center that if I wanted to make a low profile shelter, I could take a string and tie it to a tree limb, put a little tension on it, tie it through that loop, and it would peak up and make it dome shaped where it would shed water, and it would just cover in all directions. So it's a really well thought out piece of kit. It really is.
Are you running bungee cords or 550?
550. Yeah, well, as I dig through, I'm gonna break that out. The other thing I had, now you can do rain gear, like the rain jacket, the rain pants. That didn't sound good. But there again, a pair of rain pants are just a pair of rain pants. So a poncho, and this one is slightly bigger than your normal ponchos. I got this from Grouch. I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'6". The regular size ponchos look like a mini skirt on me. I mean, it's almost laughable. So when the rain's happening, what happens is it wets my pants down, and that water wicks its way down into my socks and into my boots, and I'm miserable. So this one is longer, and it comes down well past my knees. So I get more coverage out of this, and I just like it. And it also could be a stretcher, a shelter, a flotation device. It's just another way to do it. Could cover me and my pack while I'm moving, whereas this wouldn't. It's when I'm stationary.
Does it have any snaps on it or anything?
It does have the snaps, yeah.
I bought one myself this weekend. It's very nice.
So when you go over there to look at his, he's got two sizes. If you want to try the large one, then I would suggest it. And if it's at all, if you're really, really short, I've seen the large one on some really short people, and they're kind of tripping on it, and it's hanging up and stuff, and it's not appropriate for them. But if you're over about 5'11" to 6 feet, somewhere in there, it's worth putting it on and just kind of seeing how it feels. For me, there is no other way. Yeah, so you got the snaps on it like this.
How do you make that flotation like?
You just lay it out. You fill it with anything that's going to make it buoyant. Vegetation, limbs of things, leaves, grasses, whatever. And then obviously you put the solid part on the bottom and you gather the edges in, have that part facing the sky, and then you just get up on that thing and propel yourself, and away you go.
Hey, Dalton.
Yep.
We went and checked on it. It's SIL, S-I-L.
S-I-L?
S-I-L, and both of those are special made. He has those made in-house, so they're American made. It's quality, it's durable. It's
Yep.
good thing to have.
I'll have my next week.
Yeah, you were asking about the snaps. See, I've snapped together, that's how wide it is. So what you can do when you stuff it in your pack, if you want to have it staged for rain gear, let's say it's stuffed in here, I can grab this thing, and when I pull it out, I got my open bottom. When I want to put it on, I just slip it like this. Boom. It's on.
And your pack can fit under it?
Instead of trying to do that, like put it on and find your buttons in the dark and all that, that's just, you can go ahead and have it set up like that. So there's the poncho. A lot of our, a good bit of blood flow happens on the sides of our neck. We have large volumes of blood moving very close to the surface of the skin. And so for that reason, if we can warm our head and our face and our neck with something like this called a balaclava, not to be confused with the Greek dessert, baklava. If you go in the store and ask for that, they'll give it to you, but you can't wear it, and it's sticky. Yeah, so it is great. I love that stuff. Now, again, you don't want cotton. Not that they really do make these out of cotton. You want polyprop or you want wool. Wool's going to be expensive. Polyprop's going to be cheap and even a bit lighter. The difference is, like with my shirt, this t-shirt is polyprop, okay? I have t-shirts that are wool. This t-shirt will run you 8 to 10, maybe 12 bucks. The wool shirt, $50 and beyond. So, after 2 days, this shirt is going to stink. This polyprop in time will start to stink. Whereas wool, you might stink, but that wool shirt, if you take it off and smell it separately, it doesn't stink. Wool is antimicrobial. You can take wool socks and you can wear them for 56 days and they still smell like wool socks. So that's another thing. I don't own the cotton socks. I like wool socks, and the company I use, I'll tell you, and I don't own stock in them. It's darn tough. A lot of the military is switching over to them. If you wear the socks out, you mail them back to them, they'll send you a new pair. I mean, they're darn tough. They just are. They're aptly named. And they're merino wool. And when we think wool, sometimes people think, isn't that scratchy? No, it's not. It feels, yeah. They've got it down pat. Got it down to a science. So this is just a ball. You can get these at like Walmart, polypropylene balaclava. The other reason, I want to be able to breathe through fabric. If it gets cold, you can actually get some freezing happening inside of your nose and inside of your mouth and throat. So you have to warm that air before you breathe it. So wearing a face mask is superior to wearing a little snooker, you know.
Do they have the different types of darn stuff? Like, do you have like a winter set and a summer set?
Yeah, on the wool socks, they do come in different weights. They've got the real thick, real tall ones for the middle of winter, and then they've got some thinner weight ones for summertime, and they've even got them down to the real short ones that you would wear just with a tennis shoe, like I guess for tennis or whatever. So some of them also have increased padding in certain parts of the sock where they're reinforced, and the rest of it is really, really thin to allow your foot to breathe. So that they're well designed, they're well thought out. You see a lot of people running around with the shimogs, the big shimog, and I like them. They're a handy multi-purpose thing, but when you walk around with that around your neck, what does it do? Kind of starts to profile you a little bit. It starts to put you in a category. If I see you with a shimog, I'm looking at you in a different way now. All of a sudden I'm making some assumptions. So just an earth tone bandana coupled with this urban camouflage blue color coupled with a black backpack, and I talk in my real soothing NPR Bernie Sanders voice. And I don't come across as some black ninja commando prepper type guy. It's important how you package this stuff, right? The image that you're selling to the public when there's this crisis, when you're walking down the road, you just want to be with the tiny backpack, just making your way home. Peace. I don't want any trouble with anybody. If a guy jumps out there, and you've seen him, and he's clad from head to toe in the latest tactical whatever flodge is in vogue right now, and he's got all these pouches and stuff taped to him and some big Bowie knife on his leg, he's sending a message to everybody, isn't he? You know, I'm not even going to really approach the guy. I'm not going to want to talk to him. I'm not going to want to interact with him. I don't want him in my space just because of that vibe he's putting off. I'm the kind of guy, I'm just out there with you, a fellow traveler, and if you need my help, I'll certainly help you. I'm Joe Citizen. I have ninja skills. They're concealed. You don't hold up a sign, you know, ninja with an arrow pointing down at yourself. I don't carry much food. In fact, this is it. That's all I got. And that's just to shut the kids up. But if you've been on, I usually stick 3-4 of those in there, you know, where I can think, here, shut up and share that with me. Let me think. It's a crisis. Don't you know that? But, yeah, I mean, you've been on my weed walks. You know that we are surrounded by food, right? We're surrounded. We didn't even leave this property, and I found enough stuff to feed everybody here. We could have salads and soups and medicines and rope and soap and fire. It's all there. So as we're walking, I don't feel like I need to carry 10 pounds of food, you know, or anything like that. And statistically, food is not what kills people in these emergencies, okay? It's a lack of water. It's freezing to death. It's the stuff like that. Longer term, it's not even always food. It's sanitation and each other. So we're still talking kind of about core temp. Now this is all coming out of this little bag, guys. You ever seen the magician trick where he's got the little top hat and he pulls out a rabbit and then another rabbit and then a pigeon and a dove and a bowling ball, bowling pin, shotgun, keeps this stuff out of that's what this is. This is 7 feet. I'm 6'6", so my sleep gear has got to be 7 feet. That's 7 feet worth of sleeping bag right there with the zipper.
Is that a sleeping bag or a whoopee?
That's a Marpat whoopee. Also something Grouch. I got it from him. About half the stuff in here I got from Grouch over there.
How do you spell that?
And he should give me a commission.
What was it called again? Marpac what?
Whoopee. It's a poncho liner, but what they did is they added a zipper because the old whoopies that you had, the old poncho liners, it's just like a cover and not even a really good one. And when you sleep, you tend to move and stuff, and the heat's escaping. And what guys used to do is tie the little ribbons to their wrist and to their ankles so they sprawl out. And then when you get cold, what do? So it's tied here to the wrist. When they did this, it would cover themselves back up. But still, it had all this heat. It wasn't efficient. But by putting that zipper in there and making it long enough that I can bring it over my head and tuck it, I'm really encapsulating my body heat, and I'm saving that heat energy. With that, I always keep a pair of silk weight thermals. These are just the thin ones. Wicking, okay, fast drying. You see the theme with that, right? We want everything to be like that. I keep an upper and a lower, a shirt and a pant. If I've been walking through the wet brush and I fell in the creek and I'm muddy and I'm just got all this grit going on and it comes time to sleep, if I can strip down, dry off, and put that clean set on and crawl in that, I can sleep good. And then I wake up, even if I hadn't eaten, you've got to sleep. After a couple, 3 days of no sleep, you're not going to make good decisions. You're not going to be safe. Okay, you've got to get your rest. Sleep is important. So you want to make yourself warm, comfortable enough where you can just kind of shut down and catch a little sleep. Even if it's a couple, 3, 4 hours, you got to mash the off button sometimes and rest and recover. Really important. I keep several pre-measured lengths of just like parachute cord. It doesn't have to be that. It's just what I had laying around. Any kind of good cordage. You've seen me make rope out of tree bark, yes. But there again, I'm on the move. I want to set it up, break it down, sleep, get up, drink, move again. I don't want to tie up myself having to do a lot of these things. So the way that I do these is I'll take a roll of parachute cord and I'll stretch it out. That's roughly 6.5 feet when I do that. I do that 3 times and I cut it. And it's about that size of a bundle. And I find that with that big shelter sheet, when I tie it to the corners, the top, the sides, that's sufficient in this part of the world to enough length to get me to something, some anchor point. There's usually something around that I can tie to. And I've got a couple extra just for other things. So those are there. But wait, there's more. These are lightweight. You know, water is one of the heaviest things we have to carry, right? It's 8 pounds to the gallon. And that's heavy. 15 pounds is my total pack. So I don't want to carry, you know, a gallon of water. So these little collapsible bags, they weigh nothing, okay? They're really lightweight, and they're what you can hook to the filter. See, this thread's right in. So to answer, I believe it was your question, I can put dirty water in here, and then I can, notice too, I'm holding this at an angle. Don't do it like this, because what will happen is there's going to be leakage a little bit, and then that contaminated water that hasn't passed through the filter is now dripping into my cup, potentially contaminating what I want to drink. So what I like to do is I like to approach from the side. You got to sneak up on it. Come in here kind of at an angle. Okay, and I've got my thumb here as a drip edge, so if some starts to run, it hits my thumb and drips off the tip of my thumb and not in my cup. And I'll let that jet of water squirt into the cup, and I fill it that way. Okay, that's how you would do that. And these can also enable you to carry water from one location to the next. Right now they weigh nothing, but if I hit a spot that's a really good source of water, and I know by looking at my map or just lay of the land, and I suspect that, okay, this is it for water for a while. But in this area, we're really blessed with water, aren't we? We can go, you can't walk a straight line and not hit a creek, a pond, some spring, something, you know. So I just like having the ability to carry water without committing to it. And when it comes to space and weight, these containers, you know, that's a space signature. It takes up a certain amount of room. There's nothing I can do about that. But this, I can make it not so spacious, or I can fill it up, and I can fill the other one up, and I can just stick them in my pockets. And now I've got the ability to carry water when it's full or in these pockets to a second location. And I'm going to fill this up. And while I'm at the water source, I'm going to fill this canteen up. I've seen people do that, stop and fill up all their containers and jump up and walk on, and they get 200 yards down the way and they're already killed half of their bottle. It's like, while I'm at the source, I'm going to stop for a minute. I use that opportunity to check my feet, change my socks out if I need to, anything like that, adjust my layers to thermoregulate, and I'm going to drink. First thing I'm going to do is drink. This is the canteen I want to fill first. I'm going to drink, drink, drink. Your urine should be clear. When you go wee-wee, if it's not clear, you're wrong. You need to drink some more until it's clear. If it's really dark, really dark and compacted and a very small amount, you're very dehydrated. That's bad. Moving forward to lesser degrees of dehydration, orange. That's pretty bad too. And then what we're all accustomed with for the most part, various shades of yellow. Sounds like a novel, Shades of Yellow. Various shades of yellow. I'll probably write that book. That's a good idea. I'll get a patent on that.
And I made this when you pull that. Is that a sodium filter?
Yeah.
To what degree, as far as water goes, do you trust that filter before
Totally.
you're going to want to sterilize that? Anywhere around here?
Anywhere up here is fine. Now you talk like around the city, then you got different problems. But in this part of the world, that Sawyer filter will do what we need to do. You know? So that's how you have to self-regulate. You have to thermoregulate. Oh, I'm sweating. I better strip some layers. I'm starting to shiver. Which shivering, uncontrollable shivering, is the first sign of hypothermia. So you have to thermoregulate. You also have to regulate your hydration. And the way to do that is urine. Okay, the color and the frequency. Wow, it's lunchtime and I haven't urinated all day. So you have to think that way to yourself and go, that's not good. Or it's like, wow, while you're urinating, you're like, that's awfully dark. It's very compacted. I'm not hydrated enough. And you have to regulate yourself and stop and say, I'm going to drink. Oftentimes we mistake thirst for hunger and we eat when we should be drinking. Drink, drink, drink. It should be clear. Your urine should be clear just like the water that you intake.
Where the containers come from?
These actually, when you purchase, are you talking about the little bags?
Little bags.
Yeah, these come when you buy the filter. You get this for 20 bucks. For 20 bucks, you get this. I don't know if it's one or two. It's at least one. And you get the filter, the bag. You get what looks like a turkey baster. It's just like a back flusher that you use, which I throw them in the trash. It takes up too much room. It's 20 bucks. When it clogs up, I'm gonna throw it down and get another one. And you also get a bit of tubing, like a straw that you can hook to the filter to drink from, which I don't carry that either. I just drink straight from it. And, but wait, there's more. See, we're still coming out of this bag. We ain't stopped. This is yet another sleeping bag. Now, if I'd have told y'all before I started this, when I threw that bag up on the table, if I'd have said I've got this, and this in this bag, you would have looked at that bag and thought, nah, I don't think he's got all that in there. Oh, but I do. And this didn't happen overnight. I mean, this is 30 years of me bouncing around in the woods and thinking about, what do I really need? What can I do without? How can I get this thing smaller, lighter, whatever? This is the actual sleeping bag that I use. This other big thing I showed you is a liner that goes inside of this. Again, we're talking layers. In between, right now, I'm wearing a t-shirt and I'm wearing this big loose thing. So what I'm doing is I'm trapping my moisture coming out of my body, and I'm also trapping my heat between the layers. Each layer you add should fit loosely. That's called dead airspace. Dead airspace is what will save your life, okay? So this thing, and you're welcome afterwards to come up and fill of it, really durable. This, you can lay this down in the swamp and the water will not come through it. It's waterproof and it's really tough. And then the thing I really love about it, nobody likes bugs and snakes crawling on you, right? I don't. And I've had them like that. I've slept in places where I could not rest for the bugs. I mean, they're eating your flesh and you can't sleep. So this thing has, it's your typical mummy bag, and it has a zippable screened in face area, so I can completely seal myself off from the outside world. I can lay down, shut down, and I don't have bugs eating at me. I don't have snakes crawling in there with me to get warm, none of that stuff. So it'll encapsulate you. And then if it's depending on the temperature, if this is all I need, this is all I'll use. But if it's colder, I'll get in that bag, inside of this bag, and I'll put this on, and this on, and this on. See how it has a cumulative effect, right? Because our shelter is not just about the lean-to or the teepee, it's our clothing. 3 types of shelter: the kind that we wear, the kind that we carry, and then the kind that we can improvise in the field, the kind that we'll make. And sometimes it takes all 3. If it's -20, you're going to use all 3 in order to get through that night. But the advantage, people are like, you're a survival dude, you can just make shelters, right? Yeah, but I don't want to invest 4 hours of hard labor, burning calories and fluids and energy and heat and time, only to sleep in that thing, jump up and have to leave it and march on and then do it again and again. That doesn't make sense. This makes sense. It's 15 pounds. And it's going to save me lots of time, lots of energy. So this is the stuff you actually need. Now what I will not do is I will not tell you, okay guys, welcome to the Bug Out Bag class. Write this down. You need a toothbrush, a compass, 2 pairs of socks, some lip balm, and playing cards. I'm not going to give you the little bullet point checklist, because my checklist will not work for you, and yours most definitely will not work for me, because we are all so different, okay? We live in different places. We have different skill levels. We do different things for a living. We work different distances from our homes and things, so it's just all different. But what I can tell you is what a bug out bag should do is it should meet the following criteria: water, shelter, fire, food, protection. Think of your hand. Water, shelter, fire, food, protection. That's all human life is. That's all we need on this earth. We complicate it. We think we need lots of stuff, but all you need to stay alive is you need water, shelter, fire, food, protection. Can I do all of that out of what's here? Absolutely.
What kind of bag is that?
It's called a Recon 3. Now there are different ones like a Recon 4 and a Recon 5, and they got different numbers. This one's rated to, I think, let me just look on here and find out for sure, -5 Celsius.
So that's like a bivy type bag?
Yes ma'am, basically like a mummy bag type thing. Now there's been a lot of talk about first aid. This is my first aid kit. See, it's not very thick, not very big, not very heavy. So most of what's going to happen in the field, we've already established: cuts and burns to the hands, gastrointestinal problems. So basically what this is water purification tablets, anti-diarrheal tablets, some Benadryl, a non-stick pad in case I do have a for real wound, something that I can put over it, and then I'll use whatever else, maybe that, to tie and hold it in place, and several of the knuckle and fingertip bandages, and then there's a pack of oral rehydration salts, or the little pack of Emergen-C that you can get is nice to have also. If somebody is really just gassed out, I can give them that and some liquids and get them back up and running. And that's pretty much it. I don't feel like I need more than that, and I've been in the woods as much as anybody, and I haven't ever needed more than that. Okay, that's the first aid. On this lanyard, I generally put things on a string because you lose them in the woods. This is just a backup compass in case my primary compass is damaged or lost. It's another edge and a saw, okay, signal whistle, and another little basic knife, just in case I lose that blade. This is not a heavy thing at all, just a little tool kit. Then I have a personal hygiene kit consisting of a toothbrush with the handle sawed off of it. I mean, why carry that extra weight? I know it sounds ridiculous, but ounces equal pounds. That's how I got this thing so small, by thinking this way. Bring it down. A couple Q-tips. I got a comb in there to keep the ticks and ants and beetles out of your beard, your hair, and everything. Nobody likes to look bad in a disaster. I mean, you gotta look good. And I got a little bar of soap in there, and some of those little flossy things for your teeth. Nothing too killer. No toothpaste, you don't need it. It's the brushing that cleans your teeth. Toothpaste really doesn't do that for you. And it doesn't weigh much, doesn't take up a lot of room. My hygiene schedule in the woods is like I keep my socks changed out, my base layer up against my skin. I might switch out once in a while. At least every third day, you should strip down and attempt to clean yourself, all the nooks and crannies. And if it's this time of year, you need to do a tick check. You need to look, make sure if you have one, that don't let him get too deep, go ahead and get him off of it. Ticks, leeches, anything like that. And also just to let yourself air out. Even if nothing else, if you can just take your clothes and just pop them, just flip them, and put them in some sunlight, and just getting them off, and just even abrading the skin, just something, sunlight, air, any little bit helps. Because I've been in situations where there's no water, or it's too cold. It's just too cold. I don't want to take a bath and freeze to death, but just the changing of the clothes and shaking things and exposing the skin to some air. And in the nooks and crannies, like right here, the creases of inside our thighs, that's a spot that really usually tends for things. See, the skin, if you don't clean it, it actually becomes soft, and it starts to get where it'll tear and stuff, and you get this localized yeast infection thing happening. And that's what the wet wipes are for, really. Armpits, crotch, just hit all those nooks and crannies like that. Switch your layers out, keep your contact layer dry. That's another reason we want cotton. I don't want to create a petri dish around my skin. I want that dryness, okay? A couple other little things I keep a brightly colored lighter in case I drop it into the leaves or somewhere I can see it. And then cotton balls and Vaseline. People say use dryer lint. Well, that depends. What did you have in the dryer? If it was rayon or something like that, it's just going to smolder. It don't work. Fake cotton doesn't work, the synthetic stuff. It has to be real. You got to see that little real symbol, the cotton tree on there. Cotton, look for that one. It's got to be real, 100% pure cotton, and then put the Vaseline on there. The best tinder in the world. I have been in the water submerged with this stuff and come out of the water and make a fire with that tinder right there. It's amazing. I used to tell people use 35mm film containers, but we don't use that anymore. So if you know a diabetic, that's what that is, the little test strips. Those containers, and they go through bunches of them and sometimes throw them away. So, and befriend a diabetic and say, hey bro, I need that. Thank you. And the lid is attached to it, which is also nice. It's not going to be bouncing around in your ruck. And that stuff, just a pinch of that the size of a postage stamp will burn for 5 or 6 minutes. So if it's really wet conditions and your kindling is substandard, it gives you enough time and heat to make that happen, okay?
If your lighter gets soaked and it's already, can you get that to catch a spark?
Yeah, it can. And I've also got other means to start a fire. I have a magnesium block and a blade. That's my backup to that. This is more, I consider this an extra, a luxury. If it runs out of fuel or breaks or whatever, no loss. I'll use that. If I use that, no loss. I'll spin sticks. Now I have had them wet before, and one thing that I'll do is I'll stretch my clothing out like this, like find a tight place right here at your knee, and take the wheels, press down, and aggressively do that a few times, and it will superheat that flint and dry it off. And then you can make your flame. So if you get one wet, you can hyper accelerate and dry it like that.
You ain't afraid of setting your pants on fire?
No, it's not going to set them on fire. Because you're not actually lighting the lighter, you're spinning the wheel and you're creating friction, which creates heat, which dissipates water. It sweats that moisture out of that area. I did that in Alaska one time. And in the water, here's a lighter that's wet in the water. Pick it up, shake it all out you can, blow it out, and then finally spin. Get that thing dry, flame. So yeah, I've done it on lighters I've found, been walking there, and it looks like, feel like an archaeologist, you see part of something sticking up, what is that? You start brushing the dirt away. Oh, it's a lighter. You get the dirt cleaned out, and it's been there and been rained on, spin it to clean all the residue off, and bam, you get that light. These are not a necessity, but they're nice. They're like little tea bags, but they're coffee, so that's good. And then that's really my one luxury item in here, because there's no coffee tree in North Carolina. And I keep batteries for that flashlight, some backup batteries. Notice they're not in the pack. I don't even want to carry the package. That little cardboard package, that's weight and it's gone. If it's not absolutely essential, it does not get carried. That's how you get your weight down. Think on the macro and the micro level. So just a few extra batteries for that. And then the bag itself, you can see the size of this bag and look at all that came out of it. So the bag itself is a sling bag, and the reason I like that is if I'm in New York City, which I try to not be, but if I am, and I have been there before, and I'm getting into a cab or into a subway, I'm walking along and I need to sit down, boom, and my bag's with me. If I need to get something out of my bag, like my water bottle, if I just want to drink of water, I just spin it around and get my water. You don't have to, hey, babe, grab that for me. You don't have to ask a buddy. You don't have to come out of it. So that's one reason I like it. And if you get tired of carrying it one way, you shift it and your weight's on the side now. If I want it in the small of my back, it can be in the small of my back. If I want it up front and rest my arms on it, I can do that. It's just a very versatile bag. I added to it, I put a dump pouch on here, or what some people call a recovery pouch. And that's for foraging while I'm out walking. If this bag is full, as you saw it, and I come across a stand of something that I can use, some edible plant, some piece of trash I found, a bottle, a can, whatever it is, and I want it to come with me, that gives me a place that can ride along. Or you might get lucky enough to stumble on the apple orchard. That'd be nice. And then when you're done, close that lid, and the bag's on, and it's just right there on your hip, and you can go with it. And another feature I like about it is if I need to get out of the bag, if it's time to fight, run, do whatever, just grab your chest and hit that quick connect and it falls away. Most of the other backpacks, I've got shoulder strap, a shoulder strap, chest strap, an abdominal strap. If something happens and I need out of my bag, you're trying to fight all this stuff, and with that one, I can just get out of it and maneuver. Sometimes you need to be quick in an emergency, especially like if you're at a soccer match and it goes bad. You've seen how that is. So now what happens if I don't have this bag? I forgot to bring it, or a bear ran off with it, which happened to a guy I know. Put his backpack down, the bear smelled the food in there and ran up and just straight stole his bag right in front of him. Just grabbed it up and went. He found it later in pieces, but sometimes your gear, it falls off the cliff, it falls in a river, the bear runs off with it, okay? Every day of your life, when you leave the house, you should dress for success, and there's certain things you should carry, okay? So in this pocket, I carry my survival kit. And we've already established the importance of a metal container. So even the container is metal, it's useful. It's not just some nylon pouch, right? I also generally will carry with me a tourniquet and a medical kit. And this is just part of me getting dressed. I'm not doing this for y'all, this is me and the knife. That's basic. And usually, of course, a pistol if it's broken. This contains a pressure dressing, a tourniquet, a pair of gloves, a nasopharyngeal airway, and some hemostatic agent. And then I've got this tourniquet. That's for like real bad trauma, above and beyond what the little boo-boo kit can address. This is like for real emergencies, like you just lost a limb, or you're cut really bad, or you're shot, or you're in a car wreck and you've got massive hemorrhage. Massive hemorrhage is going to be the #1 thing that's going to kill folks in trauma. You know, airway, hemorrhaging, that type of thing, treating for shock. And we can do most of that with what I've got here in my pocket. So that doesn't take up a lot of room. You see how all this stuff is flat? All this is designed to be carried, and it fits, and it's not unwieldy, okay? So my little survival kit is basically a bug-out bag in a can. I can do out of this everything I can do out of this bag, just on a smaller scale. It's roughly the size of a hand. Ladies could place this in their purse and would never know it's there, along with all the other stuff, and it always ends up on the bottom, because that's wherever you need is down there, isn't it? So on the outside I keep a whistle right here, so it's accessible. I might need to get people's attention really, really quick, and you can't scream much if your ribs are bashed up, but that much air, I can make that whistle work. Now, or if you're working around firearms, sometimes you need to get everybody's attention, call a ceasefire. Whistles will stand out among all that gunplay. They can hear the whistle, everybody's like, what's up? So I keep it there, and you probably noticed the pattern. I keep everything on a lanyard. You know, if the situation is appropriate, I'll go ahead and take this thing off and put it around my neck if I feel like I want it with me. Also, this amount of cord is the perfect amount for a bow drill fire, so nothing is wasted. I'm thinking of even the lanyard itself. These are just cut up bicycle tire inner tubes, which are a safety basically in case these clasps become hit, my lid doesn't fly off. But even they have other uses. I can cut this and let it be a straight piece of fabric, put it in between a split stick and light it, and it burns like a torch. The drippings off of that can seal holes in things like my shelter sheet and my poncho. So it's part of the repair kit. And this covers the same thing the Bugout Bag does: water, shelter, fire, food protection. When I say protection, yes, I'm talking self-defense, and I'm also talking medical issues. That's kind of a catch-all. So we take the lid off, and we have Imodium AD. This Bugout Bag lecture is brought to you by Imodium AD for fast, effective relief. But yeah, I mean, this stuff works. I've rarely seen a situation where 2 of these pills taken won't stop things. I mean, there are some things could happen where, yeah, this might not work. If a person's throwing up every 30 seconds, yeah, that's not going to be in them long enough to do anything. But if diarrhea is the primary thing, with intermittent nausea and vomiting and all that, this can really, literally save your life. Keep those liquids in. This is the British Commando wire saw. This is the real one. There's a lot of cheap Chinese knockoffs. Not that I have anything against the Chinese, Washi Pengyo, but this one has the barrel swivels. Okay, it's 8 strands of stainless wire. It'll cut metal, bone, wood, all the stuff you might have to cut. Notice that one ring is smaller than the other so that it can be passed through itself and turned into a snare if I needed to. They're not expensive, $10. The company that makes these and that tin is BCB. BCB International. I think it's bcb.in.com. It's in the UK. The British SAS guys have that. So that will help me do shelter, right? If I need to construct one. 28 gauge brass wire that I can trap with, make snares, make repairs, construct things, lash things together with. Compass. A fishing / sewing kit with 65-pound test Pro Glide line in it, some needles, mini fish hooks, and the lead weights, and a couple of boat matches. Now I've got my fish hooks on a piece of duct tape, and it kind of opens and closes like a book. And so I'll open it up, and I'll take the hook off, and I'll close it. And there's a little tab where I folded the tape over where it doesn't stick to itself, and I grab that tab. Do that instead of just throwing a bunch of loose hooks in there, because they're all going to end up together, and when you pull them out, they're going to go flying everywhere, and you get one hung in your finger, you're going to lose them. So by putting them on that piece of tape, I can open it and calmly look what hook is appropriate. I want that one. Take it off, close it back, put it in here. And this all is folded around a piece of cardboard, that flat signature. It's all got to fit in the can, right? I made it to be flat. This is by, the company is UST. It's either Universal or Ultimate Survival Technologies, something Survival Technologies. This is a blade and this is a saw. Very lightweight, but very, very sharp. And you don't need some big honking ninja commando samurai sword out there. I mean, big knives are nice, they have their place, sure. But you get down to it, a lot of your stuff can be handled right there. You know, you look at the way the natives would process large animals, large game. Oftentimes they just had a little broken piece of flint this big and they break the whole thing down. Skin it, everything. So that's just a backup, assuming I've lost it all, right? This can assumes I have nothing else in the world except this and what's in it. I have a light. Pretty bright light. It's made by E-Gear. E, just an E, and then Gear. I bought it at REI. You know, the hiking store? That's where I found this at. And the reason I like it is the bezel spins, it rotates. If you put a beta light in there, which it's tempting to do because the little beta lights are flat and they're lightweight, but the problem is they're squeezy. You have the little button you match. You put it in that can and it gets mashed, and then when you need it, it's dead. So this is not ever going to accidentally become spun inside of that can. So that's why I chose that light. If I need to walk at night or I need to hold it in my teeth and do something hands-free, I can do it.
I have one of those that I have actually attached to my name badge for work.
Yeah, you could do that.
Because I use it to look at like people's eyes or skin or things like that.
Water filter. This one is not going to thread up to anything, but the reason I use this size is it fits in the can. That's the only reason I use it. If Sawyer would make one called a micro, they've got the regular one, the mini. If they do one even smaller, I would use it. But this is the only one that fits in the tin that I've found, so I use it. About 30, 35 gallon capacity. But how many gallons will you drink in a survival situation? You gonna drink 30 gallons in a week? 2 weeks? So, I mean, this will probably get you through. There again, do not allow it to freeze. The filters that I keep in my kits, I never use them. They have never had water in them. Because if they did and they freeze, it's more likely something happens, right? So I keep them virgin filters, dry, have never been wet in here.
And that's still rated for the water in this area.
Yeah, that's the standard, guys. Cryptosporidium and Giardia. If a filter won't do that, it doesn't hit the market really, because there's like regulations on it. This is a fire steel that I used to get my spark with. Water purification tablets, paper thin. Everybody see how thin that is? That's like a sheet of paper. Everything here is selected to be thin and flat. I've got currency. I keep crisp currency in various denominations. Cash is a survival tool. I mean, you look around the news all the time. The ATMs are down, the banks are closed. Look at these other countries. In Greece, they were standing in line trying to get money. They could buy a sandwich, things were available if you had money, but they did not have access to it. I'm not saying keep, tons of money, but keep enough to get you through a couple days. A hotel room, pay for that. Pay for a ride somewhere, buy things you might need like food and whatever. So have a little bit of that. This is a two-sided diamond stone that I use to maintain the edge on this little razor blade type thing here. I keep it really, really sharp. You ever been skinning a deer and it's like you're halfway through and the knife's just not performing like it was when you started? So if I had something like this, I could just touch that edge up real quick and keep working. I don't like to sharpen knives, I like to maintain the edge on the knife. So I'm frequently touching the blade up. This is a shelter sheet, just your basic Mylar blanket. It's green on one side and shiny on the other. And there's nothing special about it really, but it's one of those items that's really, really hard to improvise. It's windproof and it's waterproof. And I can go out there and build a shelter, but to make it waterproof takes hours and hours of thatching and work, and this is much better. Just make a dry place, right? So I have that. Water, shelter, fire, food, protection. So for water, I've got 3 ways. Got 3 ways on my water. I can boil it in this container. It's a metal container. So small amounts of water, or I can even cook small amounts of food in this. I can filter the water, or I can chemically treat the water. I've got options, right? And I need a way to carry water from point A to point B. So I have these water bags. They are made by Whirlpak, W-H-I-R-L-P-A-K. It's called a Whirlpak stand-up water bag. It's got a gusset. Everybody see that gusset in the bottom? When I fill this thing up with water, I can stand it up and just sit it there. And then drop my tablets in, do what I'm going to do. Then I can close it off using these integrated clasp and little bread tie, basically is what it is. The other thing that's so great about these is, anybody here know what a transpiration bag is? If you take a plastic bag and start at the end of a tree limb and wad that vegetation up and put this over it and secure it in place, the sunlight hits that and those greens are releasing liquid all the time, and it's trying to evaporate into the atmosphere, but because I have encapsulated it in this bag, it can't evaporate. So little bubbles of condensation will form and drip to the bottom, and you'll end up with a nice drink of water in there. And you can do that even in the desert. So I like to carry 2 so I can make some transpiration bags, and again fill them up and carry them in my pockets or just in my hands. It gives me a way to carry my water from point A to point B, or if I'm going to build my shelter and lay up tonight, I'll just lay these in my shelter. When I get thirsty, I have some. You see a lot of guys will put non-lubricated condoms, and I used to do that. The British SAS does that. Some SF guys do that. I've seen that. The problem is, for the condoms, you have to have a really big flow of water. Be like almost a waterfall and stand there to really stretch that material out. And then when you carry it, it can be kind of precarious. If you puncture it, you almost need to put it in something else, like a bandana, to kind of, give it a little structure. Whereas these are highly, highly durable. You don't have that problem. And most of our water around here in these springs is only this deep. You've been out in the mountains and seen that? The water's that deep. So how am I going to take a condom to that and get water in it? It's never going to happen. So what I can do is I can use this in that shallow water. I can place that right there and get my water in there without stirring the sediment up and pour it into the container. Is it slow? Yes, but it's doable. And I'll fill these things up and I'll have a way to carry water somewhere else. Okay? So water, shelter, fire, food, protection, I can do all that out of this kit. So it's basically what we have, and this is a mindset thing, guys. Survival is about redundancy. It's about having backup to the backup to the backup. Not just plan B, but plan C, D, E, and F. So plan A, my highest, most comfortable, luxurious choice is the bag, right? That's Cadillac stuff. I love that. But what is that? It's gone. Whatever reason, it's just not here anymore. Plan B. Bugout bag in a can in my pocket. And I get dressed every day like that. That's just wallet, keys, survival kit, first aid kit. That's just how I get dressed. It's part of it. It's a mentality thing. Now if that gets lost and I don't have the survival tin, I've got this. And I can still do water, shelter, fire, food, and protection on the Stone Age level. So your ultimate safety net is just going to be knowledge. Okay? But the reason I present this to you, like I said, I don't want to give you a very definitive, you need X, Y, and Z, and do exactly this. That would be presumptuous of me to do that, because I don't know what your needs are. But what I can tell you is water, shelter, fire, food, protection. My needs are your needs. Because we're both humans on Earth. We're going to have the same needs. How we arrive at that is going to vary a bit. Like the lady in the back, she looks like the kind of person that needs to be warm when you sleep. I bet you get cold easy, don't you? See, I got a good read on people. I can tell. Where me, I'm a radiator. I just throw off heat. I'm the kind of person she wants to be camping with. Okay? Woo-hoo! Am I blushing? So yeah, your core tent. Now, if she sleeps and she's really, really cold sleeper, so when she builds her bag, she's going to be really, really big on stuff like warming layers. She might go double on this, and the next layer, and the next layer, and maybe even a Gore-Tex shell of something. And she might go for a bag that's where you spend your money. They make the ultralight bags that are really compactable, and when you open them up, they're like, they just have all this loft and insulation. They're horribly expensive, but worth it. I mean, what's your life worth? They make stuff like that, whereas I'm kind of, this is where I am after, like 30 years of intensely meditating on what do I do in the woods, what do I need to do, and changing it and tweaking it all the time. This is where I have arrived at a baseline for me for this time of year. And you've got to adjust your bag. If I'm traveling out west, I'm going to adjust my bag. I'm going to adjust my pocket kit, because I guarantee you, water is going to be more scarce. So 2 water bags, I'm going to probably carry 4 or 6 of those. Now this, I'm carrying more of these in here. I'm going to go heavy, heavy, heavy on water. Time of year, in the winter time, I'm certainly going to want more things and different things than I would in the summer, right? Or if I go to a different country, I might have certain concerns too. Bug nets, bug repellent, this and that. So this is a modular thing that has to constantly change. You have to constantly inspect it too. I've seen people with stuff in there that the match heads were just rotten. They had separated, it's just toothpicks with some stuff in there. that would not light a fire for anything. So make sure your stuff's current. You know, keep it cycled out as much as you can, and inspect it. So are there any questions about the bug out bag at all? And I'll just open it up for you to come up and look and examine this stuff if you choose to. I'm gonna leave it out for a few minutes, okay? Thanks very much.